So Tesla stock's having a really hard time today and overall in the past week after an already pretty rough year in general, because now they have possibly the loss of their EV mandate, possibly reignited feud with President Trump and Elon Musk, as well as plunging Europe sales after the step down of the Tesla head of European sales. So as you can see, Tesla plunged as much as 7% after the reignited feud with Donald Trump. According to New York Post, Elon Musk reignited it, seems to still be upset over losing the EV mandate. And apparently there are threats to axe federal subsidies for Musk's companies, not just Tesla, but SpaceX too. So as you can see, Tesla is actually down about 5.3% today after the end of trading hours, but you can see the initial dip went down to a price of around $293.59. Over the past 5 days, also down about 12.27%. Also, according to Bloomberg News and Reuters, Elon Musk has assumed oversight of sales in Europe and the US following the high-profile departure of Afshar, who apparently was the head or the overseer of Tesla sales in Europe, which has been plunging ever since some of the political stances were taken with Donald Trump's campaign. And some other things were said by Elon in different conferences. So then Trump makes comments recently about Elon Musk possibly losing more than just the EV mandate.
What happened to Elon Musk?
Nothing, he's upset that he's losing his EV mandate, and he's very upset about things, but he could lose a lot more than that. I can tell you right now. Hey, Elon can lose a lot more than that.
Obviously not what you want to hear if you're a Tesla investor right now.
Let's hit Tesla, because actually it is now the worst performer in the Mag 7 this year, falling below Apple after the feud between Musk and Trump erupted again overnight. For today's Tech Check segment, Steve Kovac on the parts of Musk's empire that could be vulnerable here by retaliation, Steve, after Trump reiterated this morning when he touched down in Florida that Doge is going to go after Musk.
Yeah, some direct threats there, or at least implied threats there, Sarah. But look, over this big, beautiful bill, Musk, over the last couple of days, have been mostly criticizing the deficit and debt spending aspects of the bill and threatening to fund primary campaigns against Republicans who vote for it. But beyond that, there's a lot in this legislation that would have a negative impact on Musk's empire of companies. And if things escalate even more than they already have between Musk and the president, the government has even more tools to make business difficult for Mr. Musk. Now, since 2003, Musk's companies have received about $23 billion in funding from the federal government. Most of that, of course, from NASA, paying SpaceX for those rocket launches, according to the Washington Post. Now, Wired also estimated back in June, when the first battle between these two men started, that Musk's empire stands to miss $48 billion in federal funds over the next decade if Trump decides to cancel all those Musk-related contracts. Again, most of that would be SpaceX. Last hour, Trump implied Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk himself helped found, it could turn against Musk and cut his company's contracts. The president saying it's going to save a lot of money on top of that.
Now, despite all this bad news, there could be some signs of good news about Tesla's autonomy business maybe being able to thrive long-term despite any feud that Elon has with the president.
Gene, you say there's an 80% chance this blows over and they call a truce. Maybe I would have thought that after the first round, but here we are again. What leads you to believe that?
Well, I think they both have a lot to lose. Trump has, I think, probably the upper hand, but they both have something to lose here. So I think that the rational minds will ultimately play out. But whether this kind of feud blows over or not, I think one thing that's critical for Tesla investors to remember is that what's going on with the business, with autonomy, the progress that they're making, albeit early, is much bigger than any feud that is going to happen week to week between the president and Elon. And so I'm surprised that I understand the reaction, but ultimately I think that cooler heads will prevail. And if they don't, the autonomy's still coming one way or the other.
But then you also see a former Tesla executive saying that they had problems way before Elon Musk got involved with the government.
That the bill is flaring up those tensions between Elon Musk and President Trump. And what is it doing? Well, putting some pressure on the shares of Tesla, although not down as much as they were at the Open. Musk is calling it insane spending and claiming the U.S. is run by the Porky Pig Party. Joining us now, DVX Ventures co-founder and former Tesla executive, Kareem Busta. Kareem, good to have you. I guess first question is, in terms of an impact on Tesla from the ongoing and now once again sort of heated up feud between the president and Tesla's CEO, do you see it or could it have a significant impact on the company itself?
Well, to be honest, as an observer, I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day activities of Tesla. I'm actively involved in the industry. I think we have to step back a little bit and realize that Tesla's challenges and problems they have to solve did not start with Elon's involvement in the government or the evolution of his relationship with the president. They started with the need to refresh the lineup, continuing innovating to offer great products, deal with the increased competition in the EV space, and deal with the incredible challenge of changing the business model to the robo-taxi service that they're currently piloting in Texas. So I think all these challenges are there, have been there for a while, and that's what the company needs to focus on.
So although Tesla has they have some great ideas, they have some innovative ideas, they kind of started the whole EV movement, but they are just really struggling right now, and it just doesn't seem like it's a good time to buy. Not financial advice, just a few things I wanted to point out just of how I look at this. PE ratio is very high, and if you're not getting extremely high returns with that high of a PE ratio, it's really hard to justify this. It's hard to say that it's not severely overpriced. Year to date, it's down 20.72%. Over the past year, they are still up 43%. And over the past 5 years, pretty good returns at 273%. But again, when you compare what kind of returns you're getting to not getting any sort of dividend yield at all, plus a really high price to earnings ratio, not really the best combination. If you also look at quarterly financials here, not looking good, down all across the board here. Hedge funds seem to be selling more than they're buying for Tesla right now. They've decreased by 2.01 million shares versus Q4. Now, if you look at insiders, not a lot here to go on necessarily, but pretty even split for the most part there. Robinhood customers seem to be buying more than selling, but they've increased by 1% versus the last trading day. This goes daily, so it's kind of hard to really draw any conclusions from that. One thing that is kind of alarming, though, is analysts are pretty split on what to do with Tesla stock. They have only a 44% buy score, so a below average buy score. That means less than half of these 54 analysts think it's a good buy right now. 33% say to hold, and 22% say to sell. And as you can see, they have been missing on their estimates here for the most part over time, other than maybe Q3 in fiscal year 2024. Another indicator of whether or not a stock may or may not be overpriced is the PEG ratio. So typically around 1 for this number right here would be a fair value, a fairly priced stock. Under 1 would seem to be undervalued. Over 1 is typically overvalued or overpriced. They literally have a 12.02 forecast 12-month PEG ratio, which is extremely high. That's one of the highest ones that I've reviewed over the past month or two, and it's by a large margin as well. So possibly a few things that people might want to look at to convince themselves to buy, hold, or sell Tesla stock. If you're trying to buy Tesla stock, if you're one of those, like some of those Robinhood customers that seem to be buying in the past month, you might be thinking, well, Elon getting out of politics could be a positive. And the only problem is the feud is going since he got out of politics. He basically started a feud with Trump. Now, you could argue that maybe Trump possibly may or may not have led him to believe that certain things were going to happen if he helped his campaign. Nobody really knows for sure. A lot of this is hearsay type stuff. But losing the EV mandate and now possibly could lose other government contracts that could cost Elon tens of billions of dollars, not good. So getting out of politics, if this feud would die down, you would see more buyers. If the ride sharing thing actually starts to get some traction and somehow starts to compete with Waymo and Uber, maybe they could see some traction there with the self-driving rideshare platform. Again, if you've heard my other videos, I really think that's the future of transportation in many ways. It just depends on who's going to win that race. And then if you're trying to make the case for whether or not you should hold, well, you do see potential in their products. Again, like ride sharing is one of their biggest things they're trying to do right now. They still are one of the leaders in EV sales, even though they have a lot more competition. But hopefully the Trump feud will die down and people are kind of just waiting for that. That would be maybe the argument for holding. The argument for selling, you're looking at, well, the Europe sales may never recover after all the things that were said, after the political stances were made, and after the head of Europe's sales for Tesla stepped down. Government doesn't care about EVs. The Republican controlled government right now is not as concerned with EVs and things like that right now. Electric vehicles are not something they give a lot of attention to or help for. So there may be less of an incentive for consumers to buy EVs in the US while also having problems with Europe sales. And some people may just think Elon maybe isn't as much of a genius as some people were led to believe. Now, that's obviously just a personal opinion. That's going to vary depending on who you ask. Also, China's BYD has emerged as a significant challenger to Tesla in terms of EV sales, and they are making it to roads in the European market now as Tesla sales are declining in that same market. And obviously, American companies are creating more and more EVs to compete with Tesla in the US as well. Generally, it's not looking great for Tesla right now. There are some good ideas. There are some things that could possibly pan out, but it still seems like an uphill climb.